Tonight on Let It Rip.
I mean, it's weed. Like, there's nothing wrong with weed. Like, it's okay.
In just over 6 weeks, Michigan voters will head to the polls to decide if smoking marijuana, not just to ease pain, but for any reason, should be legal. Some say it's long overdue, and we'll be seeing green in more ways than one.
It will create a lot of tax revenue, and I'm hesitant to predict how much, but it'll be quite a bit.
But others fear the unintended consequences, along with the ones we already know about.
I think we should say no to drugs, because honestly, that's what it is. It's drugs.
Well, we're going to say no, do not adjust your set. Yes, we're letting it rip on a Wednesday night because we're airing NFL football on Thursdays, but it's still the same lively debate, so let us rip on the panel tonight. He's a Republican who spent more than a decade as a state lawmaker in Lansing, rising to the rank of Senate Majority Leader, no longer an elected official. He's still active, now part of the campaign against the legalization of recreational marijuana. Randy Richardville is here. Next to him, a mother, a grandmother, a medical marijuana patient who became an activist 7 years ago, successfully leading the fight to decriminalize pot in 6 Oakland County cities. Now part of the campaign to legalize marijuana in Michigan, Debra Young is with us. And so is our resident conservative, the Republican state rep from White Lake, Jim Runstead, ready to rumble again, as is the principal attorney and founder of the Cannabis Legal Group. Barton Morris specializes in the law, licensing, and defense of marijuana issues. He's also an official spokesperson for the coalition to regulate marijuana like alcohol. As always, the man who never inhales, the hardest working man in TV, anchor, attorney Charlie Langton. Oh, Randy, let's get straight to you, because if Michigan approves this, we would be the 10th state to legalize marijuana. It's already happened in Colorado and other places across the country. The sky did not fall, the world did not end. What are you so afraid of?
Well, for some people, the sky did fall and the world did end. The increase in in Colorado was 66% in marijuana-related traffic accidents. So some people died. 66% increase in 1 year. That's pretty serious, don't you think? And by the way, in Michigan, we have the highest automobile insurance rates in the country, an average of $2,600 per person. That's what you pay just to drive on the streets. In other states, where the other 9 states, increase averages 16% more. That's another $400 or $500 that you're going to have to pay in addition to what you pay already. But Nevada increased by 40%. Colorado, 33%. So if you think you're paying a lot now, just wait till this goes through.
Well, Debra, you're a mother, a grandmother. Aren't you concerned when you hear these numbers?
I'm concerned about my African-American son being arrested for cannabis. I'm concerned about my grandson. Do you know that African Americans are arrested 10 times more often than Caucasian Americans? And yet the marijuana use is the same for both groups. This is what concerns me. I want to see nobody go to jail. I don't want to see these young people's lives ruined over a plant.
Well, Jim, when we look at the marijuana issue, I don't know where we stand. The state legislature had a chance to get into this and actually create a law, but the people will decide. Where does it stand? I have one poll, Target Insight, that tells me this proposal is headed for failure. But another poll tells me it's going to win big. How do you see it?
I see it happening, an unfolding as people become more aware of the details. There'll be less and less support. This is like 20 pages. There's a little synopsis they get to read. They're not going to get the total details of this bill package. It is much more draconian in terms of the way it is drafted than other states. The taxes is the lowest per this proposal, yet the amount that you can have and possess is among the highest in the nation. You can have marijuana 1,000 feet from a school. That could be a couple of blocks in the inner city that you could be selling marijuana. The marijuana entries for substance abuse have increased 24% among children, adolescent children. So this is going to be, I think, devastating for children. You could get THC with no limits, lollipops that they sell in Colorado that are very popular with the kids. So I think when the voters start finding out more, and I can go on and on, we've got plenty of time to digest this, but I think when they find out about this particular proposal, I think the support is going to evaporate.
I have to jump in about the children here, about children having access to. This is going to limit access to children. This is going to eliminate the black market. This is where children buy things like this. If we regulate this and a child has to go into a provisioning center or a store to buy this, they're going to have to show ID. They're going to have to prove they're 21. There are very, very, very strict rules involved in this. Children are not going to get ahead of this.
There are no rules involved
There
in
are
this.
very strict
rules
rules
have
involved.
not been promulgated yet, and there are no penalties listed.
And this is just going to be another conversation that you have with your child, like you talk to alcohol, you talk tobacco, you talk
How many adults use gummy bears?
Wait.
Many adults use gummy bears as alcohol. I do because I have glaucoma.
Why do you make them look like children's candy?
I don't make them.
Whoever does.
Before we get into smoking or ingesting, let's talk about the legal issues.
The Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs has made specific regulations to preclude the use of any type of candy or any type of thing that looks like candy or that's attractive to those that are under the age of 17.
But Barton, here's what we know about young people. We have seen cases, in fact, they're debating one right now in Washington, of young people underage drinking alcohol because it is legal. Now, will we see then an increase in young people getting involved in smoking or ingesting marijuana if it becomes legal under this proposal?
Young people are going to use cannabis or alcohol. What's important is that if we regulate it, then there'll be less young people using it, and the cannabis that they find is not going to be in the black market. The black market will be significantly lessened if there's regulated marijuana. So that's exactly what needs to happen for less young people to use it. Right now, young people are going to use it. It's just got to get that number down.
That's ridiculous. That does not make any sense at all. You say we're going to start regulating something that today is illegal, right?
The more we regulate it, the less that
How
black
long did it take
becomes.
Laura to get those regulations done after the last ballot proposal? It passed in 2008, and the rules came out when?
Because
December
there were no
of
rules.
2007.
There's very specific rules
it took
here
9 years.
The laws didn't come out until 2007.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
That's why the legislature should have actually taken this. The legislature could have done this. They could have regulated this. They could have set the rules right now. Here's the problem that I see. I don't want to see people going into court on pot violations because they had a gummy bear or something like that. That's not right. We really have to make sure that this is legal, that is regulated. You got to be 21. And you know what? If you're high driving a car, you should go to jail.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that.
We all agree on that.
Nobody is saying otherwise. By the way, I would think that there are a lot of people underage smoking pot right now. We know that there are. So let's regulate it. Let's put some sensible rules here, and I don't think the sky's going to fall.
I think there's two issues that you have to look at. There's been a 24% increase in hospitalizations of youth in Colorado since the law passed. So it is impacting youth. And the idea that the cartels have left, the black market has left, is completely false. Just before I came here, I watched an NBC show that I was advised to watch, and it went through how the cartels have moved into suburban areas. They rent a home. They get people that they traffic in to operate the home, and the police have a hard time going after these because there's so much legalized marijuana that they go and trash the place. They go in and arrest these people, but they've been cartelled in, and so they get 3 times more selling that marijuana to other states. So the black market is still there in Colorado where this is being sold. That's what I watched just tonight.
Jim and Barton, let me talking about this issue. Some people say this is an issue regarding freedom, but others say that this really is all about money. Who's going to make money? And we're not talking about cartels making money. There are people in Michigan ready now to make millions on the legalization of marijuana. Who's going to make that money, and where's it coming from? Where's it going?
That's not what's most important. What's most important is that there's 20,000 arrests every year for marijuana non-violent related offenses. That's ridiculous. We can get rid of all of those arrests, and our resources for police can go to important things. So everybody's going to make money on all types of different issues, right?
So how do you determine when you're pulled over on the side of a road whether you have THC in your system or not, whether you're stoned or not, whether you have a tolerance for it or not?
Because they're driving. If they're driving under influence, yes, they do.
No, they don't.
They get trained. They get trained.
Trained officers can tell if somebody is impaired.
That's exactly right. So if somebody's driving intoxicated, they can make
impaired driving is impaired driving.
Of course there's a penalty. It's a misdemeanor. People go to jail for that. People shouldn't be going to jail for being in possession of small amounts of marijuana because they're not hurting anybody.
But when they're driving their car around stoned,
they should go to jail for that.
Then they should go to jail. We don't advocate marijuana for children. We don't advocate impaired driving.
Number one state in the country is Colorado.
Wait a minute.
Number one for recreational marijuana use is Colorado. What is also #1 in the country is children using marijuana in Colorado.
Absolutely not
you think
true.
those two things aren't correlated?
That is just not true. The marijuana usage in children in Colorado has stayed stable since they legalized it. It has not changed.
How about the fact,
it's about 15%
how about the fact that there's been a significant reduction in hospitalizations, opiate deaths, opiate hospitalizations?
You're talking about medical marijuana. You're talking about medical marijuana.
No, I'm talking about recreational marijuana. In Colorado and Washington, there's been significant decreases in the opiate epidemic. That's gonna happen here because people that are using cannabis, there's gonna be less use of alcohol and less use of illicit opiate drugs and prescription medication.
So you're suddenly going to not have an addiction anymore.
But it's still illegal for kids to use alcohol or marijuana.
Nobody died from the use of marijuana.
But isn't this a parenting issue?
20,000 people a year die from the use of illicit opiate drugs.
And we spend $3.9 billion a year nationally.
I think the key issue here is that this is a 20-page proposal. The people are going to get some little slice that they get to read. They have no idea the devil in the details of this particular ballot proposal. Once they start digesting this and finding out the impact it will have on children, that the drug cartels are actually more empowered under this bill than they are in this state currently.
This is fake news.
It's not fake news. I've got all the
what is so devilish in that 20 pages? Like, what don't you agree with it? Like, there's absolutely nothing that's hidden. You can go on regulate Michigan.
The lowest taxes in the nation.
Plus 6%
with the highest possession.
Plus 6%, so it's actually 16%, not 10%.
If the legislature or if we took a real slow, methodical look at this and see what actually would be supported by the people they were educated on, there could be something reasonable. This is absolutely unreasonable. The people are going to
we have to close out the segment, but if this proposal passes, you may have the choice. You'll need a supermajority, but you may have the choice to change some of those decisions.
You have an opportunity. You didn't
down the line. All right, stay with us. Stay with us.
It's the will of the people.
Oriented initiative.
Stay with us.
It's a special interest group.
The issue is on the ballot, but legalizing marijuana for adults might cause some unintended consequences. You've heard us talk about that for everyone. We've already got the highest car insurance rates in the country. Could legalizing weed make them go even higher? We're going to dig into that issue and more when Let It Rip returns.
What's the big deal if somebody that's an adult and responsible wants to smoke recreational marijuana? Doesn't bother me. Well, how about your auto insurance rates, which are highest in the country right now? And they skyrocketed after this was legalized in Colorado. They will skyrocket here.
Because it's not in the fine print. That could be one of the biggest unintended consequences of legalized weed, a big increase in our car insurance rates. Welcome back to RIP. We're now joined by a former police officer who's been on both sides of the issue. Steve Miller spent 25 years protecting and serving the people of Canton, now a private investigator. If you've already met Debra, Barton, Randy, let's get back to this issue of insurance. You say that once this proposal, if it passes, is legalizes weed, our insurance rates are going to go sky high.
They already are sky high. And if you're going to criticize the legislature for not taking something up, I would talk about the 2 Senate bills that the Senate sent over to the House that are still sitting there. Those need to be addressed. However,
we get to see.
However, $2,600 per driver will go up significantly if this passes. And the reason for it is because the roads will be less safe. Somebody with common sense explain to me how more stoned drivers on the road make it safer for our people to learn how to drive.
Yeah, why the drivers on the road?
Because that's what they said in Washington, where it happened, that 1 in 10 drivers that were involved in marijuana type accidents changed to 1 in 5. It doubled the amount of marijuana.
I don't think those are correct.
But here's what's going to happen regardless.
It's the Washington Highway Department.
The insurance companies are still going to raise the rates. Even if the numbers aren't there, they're going to raise the rate. Steve, let me talk to you. We heard earlier that police officers don't have the tools they need to recognize stoned drivers. Was that true when you were on the force?
That is not true. That's not true at all. In fact, when I was a new officer, it was big when the PBTs were coming on. So the older officers used to make fun of us younger officers for having to use a PBT to determine if somebody was impaired by, the portable breath test. They would, they'd laugh at us and say, if you can't tell that he's drunk without using that PBT, you shouldn't be arresting him.
Well, how do you tell when somebody's high?
Because you go through training, standardized field sobriety test training, drug recognition expert training, and officers are trained to spot somebody who might be impaired by whatever substance or alcohol and do it. We send these police officers out to go enforce the law, and we train them to identify impaired drivers to make our roads safe. And that's what we rely on. We don't need a special tool. We don't need to have an amount, that nanometer of THC in their blood to figure out whether they're impaired or not. A good officer on the street can tell if somebody's impaired by a substance and their ability to drive a car was impaired.
I agree.
And how did the prosecutors
by the officer's testimony, sir.
So why did the prosecutors come up and why did all law enforcement across the state come up and say,
what do you know about law enforcement?
Quite a bit. I was at a press conference earlier this week that all across the state, prosecutors and law enforcement came out against this because they said it's not enforceable. I don't know who you're working with.
So
how long has it been since you've been an officer?
5 years.
Okay.
And I spent 25 years doing it.
And
so there's different ways to check if somebody's impaired by driving.
There are 200 organizations that came out yesterday and said, we are against Proposal 1. 200 of them.
And not to mention a study done by AAA
that said
which
the exact same
says
thing.
that marijuana does not significantly impair or affect somebody's ability to drive. There was a similar study done in Canada that proved the same thing.
The average person out there is believing this?
Well, that's the question.
There's studies by...
We're not sure what the average...
No, I didn't say you're a better driver.
You said you're not impaired.
Significantly impaired.
I want to get back to this. In your 25 years, you had to arrest a lot of people for drunk driving and impaired driving.
Absolutely.
And in doing so, in putting these people in jail for impaired driving, do you feel justice was served? When you put somebody who you knew was impaired by whatever substance, do you feel that justice was served? Do you feel that putting people in jail for marijuana use serves justice?
Not for marijuana use, no.
Now how would that be different than alcohol then? How is it if you're willing to put somebody in jail for using alcohol, why not marijuana?
It's the difference between using and impaired. You're talking about impaired.
Okay. Now, if somebody's smoking marijuana and it has impaired their ability to drive, and the officer can determine that their driving was impaired and that this person is impaired, yes, they should go to jail.
Yeah. It sounds like
we all agree.
Everybody agrees with that.
We all agree.
It's the people that have small amounts of pot in their system, on their person. Now, nobody's, if you're driving a car and you're high and stoned, everybody agrees you have to go to jail. But it's just the person walking there that wants to go and invite someone over and have some pot in the house. There shouldn't be any problem with that. Don't get into a car.
You ever been around somebody that smoked pot for the first time and then went for a drive? It's not a good thing.
We're not advocating that. No,
what is the limit that you're talking about?
Somebody shouldn't be
smoke one joint or share one with somebody you've never smoked before.
Well, if you're
that same thing happens with alcohol.
Exactly.
The same thing happens with somebody who drinks for the first time and drives. The same thing happens with alcohol. You know?
So why would we say here's a problem? Let's have another problem too.
Well,
because we're adults and we're living in America, and
why are more people dying and there are more accidents?
People are not dying. You are giving false information.
Attorney I work for, Michael Comorn.
May I ask, how do you suggest that we eliminate all of these senseless arrests? Like, African Americans are being arrested at disproportionately high levels. What do you suggest that we do about that?
We can talk about decriminalization for sure. But the problem is...
so decriminalization is okay?
Yeah, that part, yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, well, you have the problem with the regulation and the taxation.
A lot of the details. The taxation's a part of it. It's the lowest tax rate in the country.
Yeah, that keeps it off the black market.
10%. If you're buying off the black market today, and you say you can buy this, or you can increase this,
not 10%, 16%.
Why would the black market go away if you can pay more?
To keep things away from the black market, to close off the black market.
It's
That's
naive.
why you keep
just like
taxes
today
low.
with medical marijuana, where you have 30,000 people growing it today legally. They're not legally distributing it. Law enforcement has told me anywhere from 80 to 90% of those that are growing today are not caregivers. They're not giving it to people who have a legitimate need for medical marijuana.
Well, I think that's wrong, too, because I know a lot of caregivers, and they don't break the law.
Let's expand it now.
So let's put the hammer down on these people and arrest everybody for a plant that is not dangerous.
It's not dangerous.
Everybody
black people are arrested disproportionately.
When you're a teenager.
If you grow up as a young black man, today you have a 1 in 3 chance of getting locked up as opposed to a 1 in 17 chance if you're white. And that is in large part due to the war on drugs, which is in huge part the war on marijuana.
So if this proposal passes,
ridiculous.
Should we then let those people who were sent to prison for marijuana use out?
Absolutely.
I think so. Yes,
I think it depends on what they were in for. If it's the same kind of usage, that I mean, as long as it's
I'm not talking about dealing, but I'm just talking about possession. We have sent hundreds of people to prison for possession.
We have to clear up people's records, and we have to release.
There's to be okay.
There's 250,000.
I think that makes it legitimate.
It does make it legitimate.
I don't want it to pass.
Yeah, I don't want it to pass. But I think there's a bigger problem here, though. I think that Congress has to deal with this issue because it is still illegal under federal law, even if it does pass in Michigan, and that could be problematic. So if Congress passes the law making it legal, then I think banks will be able to finance people who want to get into the business, and actually more money and more financing could probably provide better regulation and more legitimate distribution. Because right now, the only people that are going to make money are the people that have money right now. So it's going to be controlled by a small group of people. Lawyers will probably make the most money, which is fine. That's okay. I'm okay with that. But I think we're talking about it in Michigan, and I'm okay with this, but I do think at some point Congress has to deal with it.
And that's a great point, Charlie. What I think Congress might want to do is say, we're not going to regulate it. The federal government is going to wash their hands of it. Let's make it a states' right thing. Let Michigan decide. Let Ohio decide. Let's let them do it.
Federal reform is definitely
you'd have to walk away from there.
Necessary.
But it's important to know this is not a citizens' initiative. This is not a whole lot of people say, oh, the legislature didn't do it.
What is it?
We have to do it.
What is it?
It's a special interest group.
Wrong. I'm not a special interest. I've been working on this for years.
That are going out to make more money at the expense of
people just like me who got together.
We'll take a risk on whether the highways are safe.
Just like me who got together and we said, let's run a ballot proposal, and that's what we did.
You know what?
What kind of risk? What is the risk?
It's the people.
Explain the risk.
It is the people who.
Right now, what's the risk and the danger?
I did.
Explain it right now.
I'll slow down.
Because there is no danger.
Well, look, we're running out of time. We're going to hear from the people who will actually decide this issue. We've heard from the experts. Now we want to hear from you when Charlie takes the show on the road.
On the ballot in November, there'll be an issue of whether marijuana should be legal. Good idea?
Yes.
No.
I'm not sure if I believe in recreational use.
I don't look at marijuana as too much of a harsh drug.
You're going to see an increase in auto accidents.
Those people who get into car accidents will probably be prone to car accidents anyway.
But there could be car accidents, that type of thing.
People do that with alcohol. I mean, that's why you have to have limits.
I think that it'll bring tax dollars that the state government will be able to use to help better the roads.
It'll bring in income, but that'll give the legislature more room to steal money from the coffers.
Some people say if marijuana is legal, the state's going to make all kinds of money. Do you believe that?
It's possible.
Do you invest in some marijuana businesses now?
Not personally. I don't necessarily have those dollars to invest. But if I could, I would.
Invest, but use no.
If it makes you feel better and you do it within the law, why not? We work hard. We deserve to go ahead and enjoy ourselves.
Final thoughts, 10 seconds for everyone, beginning with Steve.
I hope everybody votes yes on Proposal 1. It's good. It's good for the state. Going to bring in good tax dollars. We're going to take away marijuana arrests, not ruin young people's lives coming up for merely trying marijuana.
Let's legalize marijuana, protect the kids, take it out of the black market, tax money for our schools and our roads. Everybody vote yes on Proposal 1.
I personally wouldn't have a problem with people that want to recreationally smoke marijuana in a free state like we live in. However, like Jim said earlier in the show, the devil is in the details. Children will have much better access. The workplace will be less safe. The roads will be less safe. And auto insurance rates will go up. And there will be people dying. This is not a good proposal, but I would be more than happy to work with the legislature or anybody that wanted to come up with a good proposal.
Right. We have to vote yes on Proposal 1. Having regulated facilities in our state is going to decrease the black market significantly, which is going to eliminate all of these senseless arrests, and it's going to be good for our economy, and it'd be good for Michigan.
Charlie?
I'm not sure the public really knows what's in this proposal. I'd like to see some details. I think there should be an advertising campaign. Ballots go out, absentees go out. I think it's next week. And you better get going. If it's going to pass, you guys that want it passed, you better start advertising now. Not happening.
I don't know how this is going to end. I have no opinion, but I do know that the stock market thinks it's a great investment. Stock till rate is up more than 200% in 1 month. I thank you for your opinions, and I thank you for watching this edition. Let it rip.
The Let It Rip discussion continues online. Sound off on Facebook, Twitter, or fox2detroit.com.